Is it, when you do the steroids, is that through the vein?
No. Well, if you do a vein, it's really bad.
So it's just through like any like large muscle area?
Yeah. So I mean, there's different places you could do, but then it's like your butts, like your quads, places that have like general like big masses. That was like a little bit easier.
Yeah. Speaking of fitness, this episode is brought to you by OxyClean Max Force. And I'm saying I'm speaking of fitness because during the quarantine, I was like, oh shoot, I need to up all my nutrients and multivitamins. So I was making my my performance greens, and I messed up. I didn't have it on tight. So the minute I started shaking, green sprayed all over the place. And I'm like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? Gio's gonna fucking kill me. I might sell the house, right? So I was like, oh fuck, I got the OxyClean Max Force. So I knocked on the door. I'm like, babe, can you bring it to me? And so she brought it to me. And even though I only had a little bit left because I've actually been using it, I put it all over the carpet. You guys can watch the vlogs. I started scrubbing it like crazy, and it all went out. So the other day, I still haven't told Gio that I'm just gonna find out now. But I haven't told her that I got her on the ground. But the last 3 times she went into the room and she talks, I always look at her eyes and I look at the ground.
You probably saw the vlog.
Oh, I know. But then she hasn't said anything. So shout out to the OxyClean Max Force for being able to even clean supplements off the ground.
If you guys don't know what it is, it's a convenient laundry stain remover spray that tackles the toughest dried-in stains with 5 types of strain fighters to remove grease, oil, grass, blood, soil, clay, food, and drink stains the first time.
Hell yeah.
And it dissolves and traps grease and oil, lifts food stains from fabrics, binds to dirt and soil to suspend them and rinse them away. It's safe on colors. Spray now, wash up to 7 days later. You've got to try OxyClean Max Force for yourself to work your magic with OxyClean. Go to oxyclean.com/MaxForce1 to get a coupon for $1 off, baby.
Thank you, OxyClean.
Thank you,
Max Force,
for keeping Bart not in trouble.
During the quarantine, I actually worked out too a couple times.
Oh yeah?
I just brought in dumbbells. I did like really light ones with body weight, and then I did some with dumbbells, and it paid off just a little bit, because then I went to the gym the minute I got, I trained in my backyard the minute I got out, because I didn't lose that much strength.
Dude, wait, can we go back to your whole steroid thing? Because that just hit me out of nowhere, and I was like, hold on. You guys are talking about it so nonchalantly. Like, what?
Well, the fitness community, a lot of people are on, and I think I've been knowing Nadim's on for
Yeah. I mean, not now, but I'm saying like when I did it, and then I was like, I'm like super open about everything. So like if I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna talk about it. And then I got off.
But it's illegal, right?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, I smoke weed, you know, like, but when it was not legal.
It's kind of gray area because it's one of those things where like you can kind of get a doctor to prescribe it.
Yes,
you know?
But it's also like Joe Rogan talks about doing
TRT.
No, like mushrooms and stuff like that. But no one's gonna go and arrest him for it.
I'm just wondering, is it? It's not like, because I keep hearing that it's illegal.
Yeah, I can't get arrested for it now for taking it years ago, but it is legal.
Yeah, okay.
Unless you get it through like a doctor or something.
So it's kind of like getting an antidepressant without prescription. That's all. That's the legality of it. Okay.
And it's also, and actually, I also don't know what the actual legal part of it is. At least in California, like I don't know if
it's a controlled substance.
Oh, it is. Yeah. So possession is no good.
No, yeah.
Because you know some things, it's like you can have like back when weed was illegal, but you could have the seeds. And that was cool, remember? Yeah. It was like, it's like the laws are weird.
So is it grown? Is it like made in a lab, like in a garage lab?
Hopefully that it's made in a proper lab. Sometimes it can be made out of a bathtub. You just don't know. You gotta go through like a proper thing. Sometimes it's like you actually get it from like actual pharmacies and like legit spots.
Yeah.
So it all depends on who you get it from. Luckily, when I did it, I got it all like properly.
Okay.
But it's kind of like the same thing where it's like a cop pulls you over. That's probably not what they're looking for. They don't want to go through all this trouble for that. They're probably like, either take it, might give you a ticket, whatever, like it might be. But they all take it themselves.
Yeah. I don't even think they'll care. I think they popped open a trunk and there's like bags of cocaine. They're like, get the fuck on. But if they see like steroids, they're like, get the fuck on. You're like, who's your supplier? I know. Can you have him hit me up? So it was like that, and I was just like super open about it. So I talked about it. Plus I talked about it so I could tell people why I got off and why I don't recommend it. Oh, I know a lot of cops that work the jails that were actually on.
Yeah.
And they had to because the inmates were on too.
Yeah.
How do they get
shit. Like, you could get anything in jail.
I know, man, but steroids is just, it's crazy because I probably pump my body up with every single drug known to mankind, but I'm afraid of steroids like crazy.
Me too. I think I'm just scared of, like, the effects on the nuts.
Dude, you'll do ecstasy every day and then fucking cheese whiz your brain, but you're just like, I don't know about steroids, man.
What effect on your nuts?
Well, I don't know. I feel like, I've heard of people's nuts not coming back. I've also seen, like, extreme balding.
Oh, I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, and I've seen people, like, some people, they get that red glow face. Remember there's that guy at our old gym named and his face looked like it was gonna explode.
Charlie shouldn't say his name.
And his face looked like an orangutan.
Yeah, so it all depends on, like, what you take, because there's, okay, so this is what the doctors will give you. Testosterone. Then there's maybe some other mild things that they could give you. Everything after that was developed for, like, crazy reasons, and they were like, yo, this shit's way too strong. Or like, for like AIDS patients, or like growth is given to like people like that, or people that aren't underdeveloped and stuff like that. And then people take that and abuse that. And then there's this stuff that's like 500 times stronger than testosterone, which is like tremendous stuff. So like taking
what about stuff? Do you know what they do? Like Winstrol or
all those things are horrible.
They're all bad, huh?
Yeah.
Because one of the stuff that I heard of when I first started lifting and getting into fitness, and this is maybe. Like 20 years ago, it's like it kind of shifted. It went from steroids and super bro, like as much as possible, to now very scientific approaches to it. And like people program the cycles.
Exactly. So it's like most people I know that take it in smaller amounts, getting better results and not dying, compared to the people that would take huge amounts. Because all these, like, say, huge bodybuilders that would take, a lot of them would take like a massive amount, and some of them would be like, yo, they're taking way too much, and you see a lot of people not be able to walk, they're dead now, they're in like young ages, and like you lift like something and you're out of breath and then your fucking face is red. But it's like, depending on how you do it, and this is not like telling people to get on and do it safely, but there are always safer ways of doing whatever you want to do.
Do you think people should try it?
So the thing is, like, it's where people are like, oh, you get this fucking huge, like, feeling. You don't feel anything. You just feel, like, stronger over time. The recovery maybe is a little bit faster. But in terms of it, once you get off, you pretty much lose all of that. Like, all the stuff that came, like, say, like, if you get bigger shoulders from, like, the shoulder, or, like, being on steroids, like, that unnatural shoulder, you'll lose that, too.
Yeah, you know, like the pictures of like Vitor Belfort before and after, like
Alistair Overeem, all those people.
Like those, like the before UFC was getting tested, everyone was like this, and then the after pictures, everyone's like,
yeah, they look not so full.
Yeah, so you lose it all.
Damn, that's crazy, man. I don't know. It's funny because I'll snort some horse tranquilizer, but when it comes to that steroids, man, that shit scares the shit out of me.
It is kind of scary, but then it's a gamble of, do you want superhuman powers? Now, it's not like Spider-Man where it's night and day, but if you put in the work, over 6 months, you can be like totally transformed like able to.
The thing is, like, girls don't even like those big ass guys, from my experience.
It's not for the girls, it's for the girls. I don't know, man. I heard PCP gives you superhuman strength.
Yeah, I used to PCP all day.
No, man. I don't know. I can't even touch drugs anymore. Just nothing. It's like, I think I'm just too scared of any of that shit. Like, even caffeine, I'm like, oh, I gotta chill. This is too much, man.
Do you smoke weed here and there? A little bit?
Yeah, that's what I'll do, but not like how I used to before. Like, I don't even do bong rips. Maybe I'll, like, share a joint with someone, or, like, maybe I'll take a hit out of a pipe. But, like, before, when I used to smoke weed, you know, like, you're just trying to, like, do one of these, like, let me fucking milk this motherfucker to the roof.
Yeah, you're trying to get fucked up.
I haven't smoked in years, but then on Thanksgiving, it was like 4 of us.
You did it for the pilgrims.
I was like, fuck it. Like, they're like, no, take this. I'm like, nah, I don't want to.
Did you get a turkey bong? Or did you get a turkey?
Oh, that would be sick. Just smoke out of the turkey.
Turkey's apple.
They gave me 10 milligrams. And they're like, take it. They're like, you're a big guy. I was like, I've done 70 before. And that was like a shit. Horrible experience.
Why?
I just thought it was like one gummy that was 70. So I took it. So this was 10, so like fine. I take it, and then he's alright, cool. And then he takes his and puts on a plate and starts cutting up into 4 pieces. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he looks at me and goes, nobody takes 10. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, well, you're a big guy, you can handle it. Worst experience, worst thing of my life.
Was it psychedelic? Like, what was it? No, but like, was it more of a?
I just get uncomfortable.
Were you like Leonardo DiCaprio at Wolf on Wall Street is coming out, trying to get to his Lambo?
No, but we did like, none of us could hold a conversation for more than like 10 seconds. Dying laughing the whole time.
That's tight.
It's like mafia with 3 people.
With 3 people? One's mafia, one's the nurse, and one's the cop.
So who was the moderator?
There's only one, so it was one of us. It was one that was the moderator. It was so fucking funny.
So the mafia wakes up, recognize the other mafia, he's like, just me.
So no, you know it's only one person. You wake up and you go, okay, say I point at Joe, right? And then Joe wakes up, he's a nerd. He has to point at one of us because he doesn't know which one of us is the mafia, right? And then there's only one civilian, so there's no cop.
There's no cop?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So it's only one round. So
basically the game is to convince the civilian. Oh, so there's one nurse, one mafia,
yeah,
and one civilian.
yeah. And then so you wake up and then we talk and we're like, oh, what are you?
So the civilians, so it's the mafia's job to like basically manipulate and pretend they're a civilian.
Yeah. So say I wake up and I'm mafia and I'm like, I'm civilian, but you're civilian. And then you won't know because he's a nurse.
Yeah.
So it's between us. And now it's like, who do you believe? So like I'm playing that I'm like, do you?
I love those.
That sounds so stupid, but sounds fun.
Because you gotta pit them against each other.
It was so stupid, but it was hella fun. Those were hella high.
Time of year again. And if you want to support the channel while wearing this adorable design, click on the link down below to check out our Teespring site. The Anime America Ugly Sweater is also available for both cold and warm holidays. Happy Positive! Positive! There, I said it. Oh, that was such a good day, too. Got some packages. Going to see my in-laws. Picking up a copy of Cyberpunk, hashtag not sponsored, and then the bomb dropped. Figuratively, not literally. Sony officially buys Crunchyroll for US $1.15 billion. I keep seeing like different numbers all over Google, and that's the only thing that kind of bothers me with mainstream media. It's just how fast we have to deliver the news. Doesn't have to be right. We have to be the first ones to deliver it. So I'm seeing 1.15, 1.175, 1.2, and it's like, okay, can we just get our facts straight and then report on it? No? Okay. Welcome to media. Here's a big shoe to drop just before 2020 ends. Sony already owned one of the world's largest caches of anime streaming. And after buying Crunchyroll for US $1.15 billion, Sony just became a huge fish in an increasingly small pond. AT&T officially announced the sale of Crunchyroll to Funimation Global Group Thursday morning Australian time, bringing Crunchyroll into the same business unit that owns Mad Men and Mad Men Australian Anime's certain streaming service, Anime Lab. Bringing Crunchyroll into the same business unit that owns Mad Men and Mad Men's Australian anime streaming service, Anime Lab. The official release didn't mention Anime Lab or Mad Men, however, it said that Crunchyroll has over 90 million registered users from over 200 countries. Crunchyroll has expanded into their own commissioned content lately, and it'll be interesting to see if those efforts are expanded with Sony acquisition. Interestingly, Sony are buying Crunchyroll with straight-up cash. The purchase price for the transaction is $1.175 billion. See, the number's right there. Subject to customary working capital and other adjustments, and the proceeds will be paid in cash at closing. Damn! Like, how many briefcases do you need for that? Like, do they have $1,000 bills? I had like a fake $1 million bill, so I showed it off to all my friends saying I'm a millionaire. I was that kind of kid. The transaction is subject to customary closing conditions, including regulatory approvals. More power to you, Sony. There's still no word on what this means for Australia, though. Crunchyroll and Anime Lab are direct competitors here, and they have different product offerings, so there's a chance they could continue operating that way, or there could be more cross-promotion between the two. The most logical course of action is just to have one service, potentially shutting down Crunchyroll's access in Australia and making Anime Lab the place to go might be one offering. Especially since Anime Lab offers more internationally licensed films that Crunchyroll doesn't focus on. Mad Men, Anime Lab's owner and operator, was also the company that brought the Oscar-winning Parasite to Australian cinemas. It's true. Either way, once we know more about how that shakes out, we'll let you know. Okay, so, Sony's trying to be Disney and just buy everything. I think we still have Viz and Sentai. And again here, Mad Men is the distributor for Australia. They make deals with all sorts of companies from around the world too, because we don't have dubbing distributors here in Australia, because the main language of Australia is English. So why should we redub something that we can already understand, despite it being in an American accent? Everything's made in America. Mad Men and Hanabi, and I think there's one other service, they will take those and distribute them throughout Australia. They make deals. It wasn't just necessarily like Crunchyroll just trying to compete against Anime Lab. It was just trying to be the one source website where everyone could go to watch all the anime. The Netflix and Hulu and Funimation streaming, Viz Media streaming, High Dive, Amazon Prime. We're all getting into the game, and there's Anime Lab just hanging out to dry. Like, you know, Australians, we have region locking because America sucks like that. We want to watch some stuff too, but we were the one to watch Interspecies reviewers. Huzzah! I'll take a victory when I can. I'll read one of the comments here. If anything was to close, it would be Anime Lab. Crunchyroll as a brand has more subscribers and reaches internationally. The bigger issue is now a monopoly that Sony has in the worldwide anime market. Owning one of the biggest Western studios and one of the biggest anime streaming services gives Sony a lot of stroke when it comes to how anime is shown, distributed, translated, and censored worldwide. Given the company has a history of deep censorship and completely refusing to distribute some titles that were deemed inappropriate to U.S. audiences, it means that worldwide viewership is going to be treated like the U.S. audience.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses with 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single lens. So whatever your needs, your local Essilor experts have the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Now more than ever, I want my dollars to go further. Because despite the crazy year we've had, my Christmas list did not get it.
Scat to there. Like seriously, with how Funimation changed after Sony purchased them, with not only how they're censoring certain things and they're refusing to dub certain things because of their
standards
and inserting political terms that only American audiences would understand, and the rest of the world is just like, really? There you go. Because the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's the same thing with Disney, where they're just buying everything, and it's going to get to a point where if Disney does own everything, there's going to be nothing for them to, like, if it's corporate heads that are ultimately in charge of everything that goes down in these studios, there's going to be no effort put towards anything because they won. They're the huge source of entertainment. We would buy everything from them, and who knows how long it's going to take for Disney to buy Funimation and Crunchyroll. They want to buy and consume everything. And yeah, earlier today I read an article on how Facebook was forced to let go of assets connected to Instagram and one other social media platform because the government deemed them for having too much power. And the same thing we done with Disney, because how much stuff do they own? Marvel, Fox, ESPN, ABC News. They own a lot of stuff, and they just keep buying. We got parks everywhere, which is a little bit of trivia. We were supposed to have an Australian Disney resort just in the Barangaroo area of Sydney, around that area. There's like an abandoned factory where it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a little resort with a little shopping district and maybe a couple of rides. Like Australia Disney Boardwalk or something like that. The only thing was, like, Australia was all on board for it, but Disney was trying to make them pay either half or the majority of it, which Australia was like, get out of my country. Yeah. Just saying, we're gonna eventually bow down to Emperor Mickey in the future. But again, I'm worried about anime being in a monopoly, where Sony owns everything, controls everything, and there's certain rules, regulations that anime creators would have to follow in order to have their own shows, to which that's just the end of creativity right there. That's why I love YouTube, but who knows if YouTube's gonna follow down the same path. I just love being surrounded by creativity and people putting their hard work into what they do and ultimately using that to create amazing products. It's not going to happen when one corporation owns everything. Because if they don't have to invest their money into effort, they're not going to do it. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We'll just have to wait and see at this point. It's out of our hands. Sony owns Crunchyroll, and they own Funimation. They own a huge chunk of anime. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because they have Funimation streaming and Crunchyroll streaming. Are they just going to stop streaming from Funimation and just use Crunchyroll? Or maybe have Crunchyroll in charge of creating brand new anime while Funimation continues to stream? Or the real dick move would be get like 2 amazing titles that everyone wants to watch, put them on Crunchyroll and Funimation, and say you have to pay for both, and they wonder why pirating still exists. Well, your thoughts. Are you worried? Are you not worried? Leave your comments down below. Do you think Sony is gonna turn anime into a giant game of Monopoly? Are they gonna censor everything that gets released on Crunchyroll? You let me know. Again, leave your answers in the comments down below. What a fascinating world we live in. Thank you all so much for watching. More awesome videos will be on the way, so stay tuned, Anime America. Bye-bye. chair's all squeaky.
No, quiet, out!
Add some thrill to your wish list at the Season of Audi sales event. Get exceptional offers now.
Hey there, if you like what we do on this channel, be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. If you wish to support us financially, we do have a Patreon page with numerous rewards to fit your budget. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Anime America, and be sure to check out our other channel, Pop Spectrum. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned to Anime America.
At the General, we welcome you back, even after a lapse in coverage.
Warehouse.
This is sort of a funny detail about the presidential transition. Typically during the inauguration, there's this few-hour period during which furniture is swapped out at the White House for the incoming president. Artwork is changed. There's a little bit of redecorating that's done, and it's, all happening very, very quickly. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, this time around there's an extra detail, which is that Joe Biden has already made plans to spray down the entire White House with disinfectant in that interim period after Trump leaves and before Joe Biden arrives. As you probably know, the White House has been suffering a plague of COVID infections. That includes Trump himself and many other people. I won't list them. So they're going to go in and hit the doorknobs and everything. And for me, this is more about the optics and the poetic meaning of disinfecting the White House from Trump, because, listen, we learned, remember early on in the pandemic where people were bleaching groceries, including just like boxed groceries where you could just open the box and anyway. And then we found out that the surface transmission was really quite low. That was probably a bit overblown. So for me, this is not really about spraying down the White House with disinfectant, misting disinfectant, to literally prevent someone who works for Biden from catching the virus from a surface via someone who worked for Trump. For me, it's more about the poetic meaning of going through the White House, misting disinfectant everywhere. It's more about the metaphor of getting rid of Trump and his failed response to the pandemic. You still love to see it. The visual is to think about is hilarious, but it's more for me about cleaning the White House, not literally of Trump's germs, but of the incompetent leadership of the virus. I'm calling this fumigate. I'm not even a dad, and I was able to tell that joke. I was actually thinking though, so first my thought was, maybe Biden should sleep somewhere else a few days and give it 48, 72 hours before walking into the White House. But the truth is, Trump may well be gone by then. This is the other story, and we've been covering this for the last 7 to 10 days. It's still unclear whether Donald Trump is going to stick around and actually go to the inauguration. One other possibility is he will fly out right before the inauguration directly to a rally at which he will continue to claim he won, or maybe even announce his 2024 candidacy. That would be completely corrosive to democracy. He might also head to Florida in just about 10 or 15 days for Christmas and New Year and just not come back to Washington, D.C. That's another speculation. We really don't know, and we don't care as long as he leaves. Now, if I were Biden to be safe, I would spray, I would treat for bed bugs, I would check for electronic bugs as well. Check for false paneled walls, check Melania's rose garden for listening devices, put the solar panels back on. I would do the whole thing if I were Joe Biden. And think about how quickly things have changed, where at the beginning of this pandemic, before any of them even remotely accepted this might be a big thing, Republicans were joking about wearing gas masks. Remember Matt Gaetz wearing a big gas mask on the floor of Congress? He ended up getting the virus. They were making fun of China having trucks spraying disinfectant. And just months later, the incoming president is going to have disinfectant sprayed in much the same manner throughout the White House to clean it from the outgoing president. Things change very quickly. My only concern is let's start figuring this out. Let's get competent leadership. We know that Joe Biden is going to mandate masks at federal buildings. We know Joe Biden is going to ask Americans to wear masks for 100 days. We are hoping that we will start getting 5, 6, 7% of the U.S. population vaccinated each month. Hopefully starting this month, maybe only a few percent this month, and 5, 6, 7, 8% in January, another 5 to 8% in February, and we're going to start. Hopefully the economic recovery will come with it. We're going to talk about second coronavirus stimulus. We're going to be here, and there's going to be so much to do, but this transition is metaphorical in as much of a sense as it is literal. Let me know what you think. I'm on Twitter @DeepHackman, and we've got a great show for you today. I want to take a second to tell you about one of our sponsors, S&H Masks. S&H Masks has everything you need when it comes to face masks and other protective gear for COVID-19, and they're giving my audience 20% off. S&H Masks is the company that I've personally been going to for face masks. I love and trust the products they sell.
Follow your passion to the very top. Tequila Herradura.
Oh, hi, and welcome to another Review Tech USA episode where we talk about more exciting technology news, probably about the PlayStation 5. That's not a PlayStation 5 though. That's a nice looking man next to a PlayStation 5. No. Xbox Series S. Shit! Messed that up. Skip it up and that up. So another thing we heard going on besides scalping and people pretending to be 8-Bit Eric, who's a YouTuber, and actually taking people's money and not giving them a PlayStation 5, or people selling a PlayStation 5, actually giving it to someone, but it ends up being bricked because Sony realizes the PlayStation 5 was stolen. It fell off of a truck, and someone's like, hey, jackpot, I stole this, now I'm going to make a bunch of money off of it. The situations are absolutely ridiculous because yes, part of it is the demand's so high, and scalpers are buying a decent amount of the next-gen consoles coming out. But the demand is there. If the demand wasn't there, I get this part, even though I can't stand scalping. If the demand wasn't there, people would be looking to go to these scalpers to get their consoles. Well, another thing that's going on is I call it inside buying. I'm going to patent that phrase, so don't use it ever, where you have to pay me. Cucumbers. Well, what is inside buying is that a next-gen console comes in, or a popular piece of hardware, or a toy, or sneakers, in the store that somebody works at, they just hold them on the side for the employees and say they're out of stock and sell them to the employees. And that was what was happening at this Walmart. So there was a TikTok user that went to her local Walmart to pick up a PS5. And she caught the employees buying the system instead of selling them to customers. Here are the TikTok videos. I'll let you watch them, then we'll discuss.
The freaking camera's outside. He was third.
Yeah, that's four.
It was 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
¿Por dónde se metieron, man? ¿Por dónde se metieron?
They're workers. That's not right.
No. You need to try to pull that. I'll get your names and we'll go corporate. We'll get people fired. Yeah. No, it's not okay. I don't care.
I live in the morning. We all want one, but we gotta do it right.
Vengo a echarles el video que estoy en short. Me vienen calzones.
So they're selling the PlayStations before 7 o'clock to employees, and we made a money before 7 o'clock. Okay, and they told us to go back because everything was sold. I've been here since I'm the first person. I was the first person here since 3:30. Like, that's not right. Then there was 4 of us. It was me, him, and him. There's the 4. Well, they told us, she came from her mouth, she's like, you guys need to leave. There's nothing. There was only 4. There's nothing to be here. And there was 4 guys already here in line that were not in line because I've been here since 3:30 in the morning. I don't know where they came from.
Now, I'm guessing this TikTok user, Adorable Mia, did end up getting a console because she had another video, which I won't show. I don't like putting children in videos, of her son playing the PlayStation 5, and she wanted to play it, but he was hogging it. So I guess all's well that ends well. I can talk today. But yeah, I know this is a thing. You want to know how I know this was a thing? Because I used to work at Circuit City Express when I was 19, and it was in the year 2000. And this is when the PlayStation 2 came out, and we had PlayStation 2s in stock, and I remember going in the day the PlayStation 2 came out, because you had to walk through the mall, because it was Circuit City Express. It was a smaller store that was meant for malls, and there was like a line all the way down to the mall to the entrance of Circuit City Express, and my boss put a PS2 on the side for me, and didn't let customers get it. So basically the same thing that was happening here. I would never do that now. I wouldn't have even done that 10 years ago. But when I was 19 and a dumbass, yeah, I did it. And I'm sure these employees were probably younger too, or just didn't give a crap and were like, yeah, we want to buy these consoles for ourselves, either just to personally have them or to flip them on eBay for a couple grand. And so my point being is that this happens, and it happens all the time. I know that Camelot 331 has talked about it happening at GameStop, which I'm sure it does, and then they were flipping the consoles and making money on them. It happens everywhere, because when you have people, especially when you have like college kids or younger people that work at these jobs, they don't give a shit. It's like, oh, I bought a PS5 and you're gonna fire me? That's cool. I'll make as much money in 2 months working here than I will just selling this PlayStation 5. Goodbye, temporary holiday job that I don't care about. And I'm not saying everyone there is like that, but there's a lot of people that are like that. So here is the reality of it. Please, I know I say this all the time, and this is why people call me the daddy YouTube, and they get annoyed. Rich tomorrow, Rich yesterday, Rich on Friday, Rich on Sunday with a cucumber. All kidding aside, though, just wait until the consoles are readily available. Don't go through we're during a pandemic, don't go through disgusting stores like Walmart and risk getting COVID-19 to just get one of these consoles when you could wait 6 months, more bugs will be ironed out, and they'll be readily available, and you could safely buy them. And yes, I get that COVID-19, you have a 99.9% chance of surviving, but I've known plenty of people that have had it, and even though they didn't die, it's a horrible illness that makes you feel awful. You don't want it. It's not worth it to play Astro's Playroom. You don't want... Astro's Playroom is...
Do you have fear in your heart?
I should cut out yours just for asking.
It's not worth getting COVID-19.
I have a highly lucrative
I know
job
someone
offer.
going through it right now. It's the worst illness that she's ever had.
Nobody scares
So,
me.
wait.
But I'm not talking
Don't
about
go
it.
to
What do you
disgusting
want
stores
with
like
them?
Walmart
I need some
in the wee
skins to
hours
make
of
some
the morning
breastplates.
and risk catching an illness that's going on
I'll get
during
the
the
bear skins
pandemic.
for you.
Excellent.
This is Retro Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one.
I have the
Hey,
feeling
if you
could
enjoyed
talk
my
to
content, consider becoming a Review Tech USA member. I'll have a link below in the description. I live stream now on this channel all the time, and it gives you access to cool emoticons to use as well while I live stream. Again, link below in the description. Thank you for your...
So, for years on this program, I have tried to sound the alarm about the evils of our drone program. It was created by George W. Bush, and when Obama took over, he basically ramped up drones exponentially and killed so many civilians that he was forced to scale back the program. But once Donald Trump took office, he once again scaled up the program, and we learned that he increased drones by more than 400%, and on top of that, he loosened the rules of engagement. So there were warnings that this would lead to much more civilian casualties. And we speculated that by the time we learn about how many deaths Trump's drone program caused, it would be a disaster. The damage would be unfathomable. And now we're starting to get a sense of the destruction that Donald Trump caused from this drone program. And honestly, this is worse than any of us could have imagined. So as Brett Wilkins of Common Dreams reports, the Trump administration's 2017 decision to loosen military rules of engagement meant to protect civilians was followed by a sharp increase in civilian deaths, a report released on Monday revealed. The report by Nita C. Crawford of the Brown University Watson Institute's Cost of War Project will near authorities on civilian casualties in the 19-year so-called War on Terror found a 330% increase in the number of Afghan civilians killed by U.S.-led airstrikes from 2016, the final year of the Obama administration, to 2019. From 2007 to 2016, U.S.-led and Afghan government forces killed an average of 582 civilians each year, the report found. From 2017 through 2019, those same forces killed an average of 1,134 civilians each year, a nearly 95% increase. The sharp uptick in civilian deaths followed a decision by President Donald Trump in consultation with former Defense Secretary James Mattis and other military civilian officials to relax rules of engagement in the Afghan war in order to give U.S. commanders more battlefield flexibility and to gain leverage at the bargaining table with the Taliban as both sides sought to end the devastating war whose course has spanned nearly the entire 21st century. From 2017 through 2019, civilian deaths to U.S. and allied forces airstrikes in Afghanistan dramatically increased, the report states. In 2019, airstrikes killed 700 civilians, more civilians than any other year since the beginning of the war in 2001 and 2002. After the U.S. and Taliban reached a peace agreement in late February 2020, U.S. and other international airstrikes declined, and so did the harm to civilians caused by those strikes. According to the United Nations, U.S.-led and Afghan government airstrikes killed more civilians than did Taliban militant attacks during the first half of 2019. The new report found that as U.S.-led bombings declined following the tenuous peace pact reached with the Taliban in February of 2020, Afghan government airstrikes have increased as the Kabul government negotiates its own peace agreement with the insurgents. So this report is shocking. It sent chills down the back of my neck when I read it, because what it tells us is that in order for us to have more leverage, we started to kill more and more people indiscriminately. So that way the Taliban would come to the table to get us to stop killing innocent civilians. Our government killed non-enemy combatants to get more leverage. Do you know what that makes us? That makes us terrorists. Do you want to know what that makes Donald Trump for doing this? A war criminal. He and anyone else involved with this, they should be in prison for the rest of their lives. But they do this because they know there's no accountability. Obama didn't prosecute George Bush for war crimes because he'd go on to commit war crimes himself. So of course Donald Trump now feels free to do whatever he wants, even if that means murdering innocent civilians. Also, we have more leverage in negotiations with the Taliban. It's just, it's sickening. How are we allowed to get away with this? How do we have any legitimacy whatsoever in the world when we are using innocent human beings as bargaining chips? How does this not outrage people? How is this not a national scandal? We're killing people in order to get the Taliban to want to make us stop. Hey, if you negotiate with us, we'll stop killing innocent civilians. That's monstrous. Like, there are no words to describe this. This is psychopathic behavior, but it's pretty normal for our empire. This is something that we do all the time. So, I mean, for me, I knew that the civilian casualties would increase under Donald Trump, since he not only loosened the rules of engagement, but on top of that, you know, he increased drone strikes exponentially, even more so than Obama did. But for our government to indiscriminately kill innocent civilians, also that way we are better off negotiating a so-called peace deal with the Taliban. I don't know what to say about that. I think the worst part about the story, aside from the fact that
receiving incoming transmission,
is that there's going to be no accountability. Mattis isn't going to see a day in prison. Trump is going to live the rest of his life a free man when he should be in prison. The way that I see it, both Obama and Trump and Bush, they can all share a jail cell for all I care. What matters is accountability. And listen, ask yourself this: why hasn't the United States government signed on to be a member of the International Criminal Court? Isn't that pretty obvious? It's because if we actually subjected ourselves to be accountable to international authorities, how many of our government officials would go to prison? Now, there's issues with the International Criminal Court. There is a bias towards Africa. They prosecute more African war criminals than anyone else. They don't necessarily look to the war crimes that are being committed by developed countries, and that's a problem. But I mean, there should be some international entity that can hold war criminals accountable, that should have jurisdiction over any government that does things like this, that does what our government does. So it's outrageous that we can do this. We can commit acts of terrorism, and there's zero accountability, none whatsoever. The only accountability that Obama saw was criticism, and the consequence was he scaled back the program. But that doesn't take back the lives that he took. And now Trump didn't even bother to scale back the program. He wanted to show everyone how tough he was. And, you know, he did this so he could get the Taliban to come to the table. So then he can claim to be the president who struck a peace deal and the wars. Meanwhile, to get there, killing hundreds of innocents. It's just, it's nauseating to hear things like this. I don't even know what to say. It's just, yeah, it's depressing.
This weekend, get to Kohl's and save on great holiday gifts with an extra 20 or 15% off. Save on smart home must-haves, get up to 40% off family sleepwear, and get up to 50% off sleep. Plus, get Kohl's Cash, plus free store pickup. Give with all your heart. Kohl's.
Your compassion is timeless. You've always wanted to care for people and make a difference. By enrolling in Grand Canyon University's Accelerated Bachelor of Science in Nursing program, you can complete your degree in as little as 16 months and focus on changing patients' lives for the better. What do you think making a difference in nursing looks like? Become the nurse every patient deserves. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Search GCU ABS today.
So if you are an average consumer of political news and you're finding it difficult to keep up with negotiations regarding the economic stimulus package, let me give you a little piece of advice. All you have to do is look to what Mitch McConnell says and does, because he is the ultimate gauge as to whether or not something is going to live or die. Because if he says, yeah, I like this, let's pass it, let's vote on it, it's going to pass. And if he does not do that, then it's going to go nowhere. This is what happens all the time. When Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump had agreed to a particular stimulus relief package this last time when Wolf Blitzer and her blew up in that really heated exchange, ultimately it was Mitch McConnell who shot both Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi down. Mitch McConnell is the one who unilaterally killed that round of negotiations. So now, whether or not this $908 billion package that's currently being discussed is even going to have a chance will come down to what Mitch McConnell wants. And there is a chance that this one will pass because Mitch McConnell wants the corporate liability shield. And since he wants that, well, if that is included in this proposal, then he may allow a vote on it. And Katie Porter took to Twitter to point out how corrupt Mitch McConnell is and how he's holding economic stimulus hostage unless he gets what he wants for his corporate donors. So she states, when I came to Congress, I knew I had a responsibility to pull back the curtain for the American people and expose corruption in real time. So I'm filling you in on Senator McConnell's attempts over the last 8 days to tank a bipartisan COVID relief bill. You may have heard that Democrats and Republicans have agreed upon spending $900 billion to fund another round of small business loans, support hospitals and essential workers, and help the 10 million people who lost their jobs through no fault of their own. Everyone at the negotiation table, including Senate Republicans, has agreed to a compromise. Except what? Mitch McConnell is refusing to bring it to the floor unless it wipes away all COVID-related lawsuits filed that allege injury or death due to corporate negligence. These lawsuits represent the worst of the worst examples of disregard for human life. Cases filed on behalf of nursing home patients and grocery store workers who died because the company in charge of keeping them safe prioritized cutting costs over protecting them. The same McConnell who said that President Trump is 100% within his rights to pursue baseless lawsuits alleging election fraud is now refusing to pass urgently needed relief unless it strips those same rights from the most vulnerable among us. This must be exposed. So it's very simple here. What she's basically saying is that if Mitch McConnell doesn't get what he wants, which is the corporate liability shield, this is not going to pass. It all comes down to Mitch McConnell. Now, she went on television to talk further about this and really explain how disgusting what Mitch McConnell is doing is in actuality, and he alone is holding up relief for millions of Americans who desperately need it right now.
What we're dealing with here is somebody who is trying to put the imaginary need of big corporate donors ahead of the very real need of the American people. And here's in Senator McConnell's own words. He says, well, there might be an epidemic of lawsuits. But let's be clear, that is not currently a problem. There's only a handful of COVID liability lawsuits in the country. Tort lawsuits are down this year as compared to last year. What there is an epidemic of in this country is hunger,
I'm not here to judge.
is homelessness,
I was hired.
housing insecurity, and that's what we need to be focusing on right now.
Dear Best Buy, can gifting a new phone be easy?
We can find everyone in your family their latest phone, and we'll help you activate them from anywhere on the reliable Verizon network.
Research has shown that COPD patients are at an increased risk of developing a chronic condition called bronchiectasis.
Let's talk about what is going to expire if a relief bill doesn't happen in the next few days. There's pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, pandemic unemployment assistance, paid leave protection, renter eviction moratorium, home foreclosure and eviction moratorium, student loan deferment, penalty-free retirement withdrawal, unspent COVID relief funds, use of PPP funds, employee retention credit, employee payroll tax deferral, suspended Medicaid sequester cuts, airline and national security loans. That is a lot of things that affects a lot of Americans. When you're looking at all that is out there, that is on the line, I'm wondering, where's the urgency in Congress? Why do we keep hearing talking and talking and talking and not voting? Why haven't we seen a bill come to the floor yet?
Well, look, Katie, Democrats have voted. The House has voted. We voted back in June or July for the HEROES package. We continue to want to negotiate. We've stayed in session and tried to reach a compromise. And I want to be clear. Many Republicans are willing to compromise. Many Senate Republicans are willing to compromise. This isn't about the dollar figure of relief. We all understand that we could do a little bit less now and then do the rest to come. This is about Senator McConnell holding out, trying to basically give a license to kill to big corporations that engage in reckless behavior to endanger workers and employees and Americans. So we all, Republicans and Democrats, agree there's a potential to move forward here to continue those programs if he will drop this ridiculous and I think corrupt attempt to try to put these imaginary needs of big corporations ahead of the needs of the American people, which are very, very real and, as you point out, are extremely urgent.
You've been in Congress a few years now, so I'm wondering if you have any insight for why we are in the situation we're in. We're asking people to stay at home because we don't want the virus to spread, but we're giving people no ability to stay home and to maintain their livelihoods. Don't work, but we're not going to help you even though you're not working. This is not happening in Europe. In Europe, they're making sure that people do have the ability to stay home. Why are we functionally this way? Why can't we support people in the middle of a crisis?
Well, for me, I think this really boils down to a question about who do representatives in government answer to? We have a campaign finance system, unlike anything seen in Europe. So the idea that the interests of businesses and big corporations would come in front of the interests and needs of the American people, it is unfathomable in most countries in this world, but so is our campaign finance system. That's why I don't take corporate PAC money. It's why I don't take contributions from lobbyists, because I think I'm supposed to work on behalf of the American people, and that means making sure that we have a strong, healthy economy, which means giving Americans disaster relief payments so they can put food on the table, so they can keep a roof over their head during this time and be ready to go back to work when it's safe to do so.
So I've got to say that Katie Porter is quickly becoming one of my favorite members of Congress, and I'm really glad that she made that point about why we're so different, when compared to other developed countries. It's because we have a completely broken campaign finance system where we basically legalize bribery in this country. So because Mitch McConnell's only initiative in Congress and as Senate Majority Leader is to look out for his corporate donors, he can use his power as Majority Leader to shut down any negotiation that doesn't deliver enough to corporate America. And it's really disgusting. And I feel like he doesn't get enough backlash for everything that he does or doesn't do, like not allowing votes to come to the floor of the Senate. I mean, he really is shutting down America unilaterally, not allowing bills to pass. And it's easy to, look at Nancy Pelosi and the way that she always fumbles when it comes to negotiating with Republicans. And, when you see Donald Trump say he supports something and Nancy Pelosi echo the same sentiment and it doesn't get passed, you can, chalk that up to incompetence. But at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, Mitch McConnell is the lowest common denominator. He's the one who single-handedly kills these socks. Now, you know, it's funny because we always have to go through this if we're talking about legislation that will help the American people. But if it comes to a giveaway to corporate America or expanding the defense budget, that always passes easily. And it's because, as you know, Katie Porter explained, our broken campaign finance system makes it so that way we're in this state of affairs where corporate America is always being represented, but the American people are being left aside. It's disgusting. And, you know, Bernie Sanders made the same point in an interview with MSNBC, and he really does a great job at shedding light on just how broken our system is.
The question now is whether or not Mitch McConnell is going to turn his back, as your report just indicated, on the incredible suffering that the American people, the working people, are now experiencing. Unemployment high. We have a record level of hunger in America. Millions of people are facing evictions. This is an emergency. Congress has got to respond aggressively to help working families. You know, Stephanie, I always get a kick. Here in Washington, when we go to war, there's endless amounts of money. Tax breaks for billionaires, endless amounts of money. Corporate welfare, endless amounts of money. When children are going hungry in America today, suddenly we don't have enough money. That's crap. That's wrong. And if we have got to stay here throughout Christmas, which is the last thing in the world that I would want to do, we are going to stay here because we are going to make sure that struggling working families in this country get the help they desperately need.
Senator, I'm not agreeing with you fundamentally, but I want to talk to you practically. You've been the lead sponsor of 422 bills during your 30 years in Congress, but only 7 of them have become law. Given that record and how dire things are, as you just laid out, do you need to find another lane or take a different approach here?
I don't think that's the issue, Stephanie. I mean, you can ask me how many other senators have passed significant legislation in recent years. The question is, you could name post offices and so forth and so on. Some of the legislation that I've worked on, the Veterans Bill, for example, has been very significant in passing. But the issue right now is the United States Congress going to stand up for working people or not? And I am doing my best to rally not only Democrats but Republicans as well. Now, as you may know, the proposal that came out of the White House just yesterday talks not about $1,200 per person, but $600. That's unacceptable. And by the way, they want to do away with all extended unemployment benefits. And that is also unacceptable. As your very excellent report indicated, all over the world, countries are responding to the pain that working families are experiencing. We have got to do the same. This terrible, terrible pandemic.
Receiving incoming transmission.
Is how far behind we are other countries around the world in taking care of our children, taking care of the unemployed, taking care of the elderly, taking care of the sick. We're the richest country in the history of the world. 92 million people today are uninsured or underinsured. That is beyond belief. That is why, in my view, we've got to move to Medicare for all single payer to guarantee health care to all people.
And that last point is absolutely spot on. It really took this pandemic to expose just how broken our government is. The response has been comparable to what we'd expect from a failed state.
Stop right where you are.
Santa?
Cindy?
Oh, wow. That is not how I pictured you.
What? The beard?
Yeah, I thought you'd be more...
Bigger?
Bigger, yeah.
I was. Mrs. Claus got me the Lawnmower 3.0 for Manscaped.
I had so much excess hair.
She's so smart.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me, I have one for your boyfriend.
Thank you so much. Steven's gotten so hairy.
Already unwrapped. Don't worry, I haven't used it. That's skin-safe technology, so he won't Saint Nick himself.
Nice. Witty.
Merry Christmas.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I haven't held a secret to you.
Weird.
got, what, a one-time payment of $1,200 back in March, and here we are in December, and we don't even know if this latest round of negotiations for a stimulus will go anywhere. Is it even going to bear any fruit? We have no idea. It depends on what King Mitch McConnell wants. It's morally reprehensible. Like, I want people to see that if your government isn't looking out for you when we are facing an eviction crisis and societal collapse as a result of this pandemic, if they're not looking out for you now, when you need it the most, do you ever expect them to look out for you when there's no pandemic, if they won't even do it now? I mean, they are failing the most basic expectations of governments. So people have got to start paying attention and acknowledge the fact that you don't have healthcare in a pandemic, the fact that anyone is going homeless during a pandemic. This is a failure on government. It's not a failure on you. It's a failure on government. Now, I've got to point out, since we watched the clip, Stephanie really just randomly decided to attack Bernie Sanders. You've sponsored 422 bills, but only 7 have become law. So apparently that's supposed to speak to Bernie Sanders' inability to get anything he wants codified into law. But doesn't that say more about the incompetence of Congress than anything? Like, you're literally having a conversation with Bernie Sanders about how, it's really difficult to reach a compromise. And, we don't know if this latest round of stimulus talks is going to pass. And if it does pass, will it actually be sufficient and include another $1,200 direct cash payment? But yet you blame Bernie Sanders, who's actually pushing for the right thing. I mean, these folks are just hacks. You're bringing him on the program to discuss how broken Congress is, how broken our government is, and yet you're blaming him for things that he supports not getting passed. It's not like Bernie Sanders is uniquely incompetent. No, our fucking entire form of governance is broken. So why would you go out of your way to prepare that hacky attack on him when you know what's going on? At least I hope you know what's going on, but I'm assuming that you realize what's going on. The other day, Stephanie really had a really enlightening segment where she talked about her diagnosis with COVID-19 and how basically the way that her and her husband responded was they just stayed home. Her kids were asymptomatic, but her and her husband had it, and they stayed home until it passed. But she said, a lot of people can't do that. They're not financially secure enough to stay home. So you know that that's a failure of government. You made this point. So why would you point to Bernie Sanders, one of the few people in Congress standing up for the American people, and make it seem as if he's the one who's incompetent when you know what's happening? So, I don't want to go too off track here because, this ultimately is about stimulus negotiations, but that just irritated me. But look, at the end of the day, Mitch McConnell is the lowest common denominator. And whether or not we see another round of stimulus payments, direct cash payments, this will come down to whether or not Mitch McConnell gets what he wants.
Throughout the story of Yu Yu Hakusho, the main protagonist Yusuke Urameshi and his friends encountered a number of powerful and dangerous villains. Being comprised of humans and demons alike, these villains provided an incredible challenge and left an indelible impression on Yusuke as a person. But who among them is the best and most iconic villain? On the newest episode of Chapter Chat, we're going to discuss that. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. Okay guys, so joining me in this video is someone you've seen on my videos in the past. His name is...
Alrighty guys, it is Kwame here today.
So, I think it makes sense for this video for us to go through chronologically in the order in which Yusuke encountered these villains. So let's first start off with the group of 3 villains that Yusuke encounters in the Spirit Detective arc, which would be the group of Kurama, Hiei, and Goki. And I think in their
case, I would have to say that even though he wasn't technically the leader, he was basically the real true antagonist out of the three, as the character of Goki kind of served more as a stepping stone for Yusuke to flex his power with the spirit gun and the spirit cufflink, and as well as Kurama in this case, wasn't really someone who was truly trying to stop Yusuke or even keep the items for himself. He just wanted to use it to save his mother, who was on the verge of death.
This was a very interesting group because outside of Goki, two of those characters ended up being allies to the rest of the show. But I mean, Kurama definitely didn't feel like a villain at all. It felt like he had his own individual agenda to help his mother. So his part of the whole equation doesn't really need to be discussed. In the case of Goki, I got the vibe that he was like a low-level villain that was very forgettable. And honestly, like, they never even showed anything about him in the future moving forward. So obviously we don't care about his whereabouts. We don't care about anything that happened to his character. Hiei, on the other hand, I feel like really brought that arc to life because it was kind of like his rivalry with Yusuke was being established early that we would see later on when they went to go take on the 4 Saint Beasts. And I also think that because Hiei brought Keiko into the equation when he was trying to possess and take her over, you know, with his Jagan Eye, I definitely feel like that demonic manipulation was something that made him and Yusuke kind of always on the fence, and we would see their relationship mature later on. So in reality, I wouldn't really say any of them really felt like villains except for Hiei.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And Hiei definitely had a lasting impact on the series, like you said, becoming an ally. Now, moving on to the next real main villain of this arc, and it's funny because this arc is really split up into 4 mini-arcs. The next one would have to be the main antagonist of the Genkai tournament, which was Rando, who was a demon that was also a martial arts master who had stolen 99 different techniques during his fights against the various martial artists that he killed in order to become this ultimate fighter. And that was the whole reason why he was even in the Genkai tournament, because he wanted to acquire the Spirit Wave technique from Genkai so that he could make himself even more powerful and a threat to even stronger foes.
Honestly, it's just the funny thing to me is that whenever you look at Yu Yu Hakusho back in hindsight, and recently I saw the series again about 3 weeks ago, I really feel like as the show progresses, that along with combined with the 4 Saint Beats, except for a few of them, they really became forgettable characters. So no, I wouldn't really say that he felt like a villain in the long term, but at the time, because Yusuke was developing his abilities and each villain was progressively getting stronger, I would say so.
Yeah, I agree, which leads into what we were talking about earlier, which would have to be the 4 Saint Beasts. And when it comes down to them, their main leader was Suzaku, who was a demon that had a lot of really powerful abilities, even though his power level might not really be comparative to people that came after him. But this guy not only proved a big threat to the Earth as a whole with the spreading of the Makai insects, but also was a massive threat to Yusuke himself and pushed him really to his absolute limits and beyond, where he nearly died having to defeat this guy.
Suzaku was by far the most memorable character from that arc because he was obviously the main villain of the 4 Saint Beasts. And I feel like because that was like really the first time that we truly saw Yusuke bringing out like his true power, you know, combined with the fact that this villain kind of had a large arc where like he was setting all of those possessed like humans after Keiko and Botan. I feel like that arc by itself really epitomized like, okay, this kid Yusuke has a lot of potential, and that was like the first real serious villain that Yusuke had to fight. And what I loved about that fight is seeing how Yusuke improvised and just improved so progressively from just being a regular high school punk.
And one of the things that really also built him up as a villain would have to be the fact that this arc takes place immediately after Yusuke comes back from finishing his training with Genkai. So that really shows you that things are on a whole different level now. But they get taken to an even higher level, much higher than we would have expected, with the next villain, who was first introduced at the very end of the Spirit Detective arc, but then became the true villain and the true main antagonist of the Dark Tournament arc. And that would have to be Toguro. And definitely when it comes down to Toguro, I would have to say that he's my personal favorite villain in the entire franchise, and very arguable for the most iconic. Obviously, Toguro, when we take a look at him, he seems to be very inspired in his imagery by a certain Austrian bodybuilder who I'm a big fan of. And when we actually see him on display in the series itself, we really see that he takes the dynamics that were established up until this point, and he turns everything up to 11, taking it to the very next extreme, where he starts to implement things that we saw very similarly with Goku versus Frieza on Namek, where he shows up and he's like, oh, I've been holding back my power the entire time. You know, when he encounters Yusuke in the parking garage, and then he says, I can use 10% of my power, I can use 20, 30, 40, and we see him get more and more grotesquely muscular as this happens. So I feel like with Toguro, not only does he obviously have the incredible power on his side and the intimidation factor, but he's actually a lot more nuanced of a character than he would first appear in his introduction.
I feel like one of the best scenes in Yu Yu Hakusho history would have to be that scene, like right after that whole arc ended, where like Toguro like encounters Yusuke in the city and then starts breaking down that building. You remember that scene, Mike, where like he starts like making it crumble, and he did it to like get Yusuke's attention to like join the Dark Tournament. And I feel like that was obviously a fantastic way to begin an arc and really progress it. In terms of Toguro and both the Elder Toguro, I would definitely have to say that arc did a fantastic job in teasing us when it pertains to how Yusuke and Kuwabara came up into attacking them, and I definitely feel like Toguro was the first villain in Yu Yu Hakusho that really had like his own motives and his own agenda, whereas the other villains before had minor agendas or kind of just existed. Like Suzaku, for example, Mike. Suzaku was kind of just doing his own thing in his place. Like he wasn't really interfering with Yusuke until he tried to hurt Keiko. He was kind of just worrying and doing his own business, and you know, Yusuke was assigned to take him out, but he didn't have like a personal agenda the way that Toguro did. And you can even argue that for all Yu Yu Hakusho villains, Toguro is the most personable villain of all.
And one of the things I always really liked about the Dark Tournament and his relationship with Yusuke and Genkai is almost kind of like the whole parentage sort of role that each of them filled. Like Genkai kind of serving as a mother for Yusuke, who actually had a mother who was kind of absentee. When it came to his actual father, he was never there for Yusuke. So Toguro, even though he's a villain who wants to kill Yusuke and is pushing him to these extremes to defeat him, still kind of serves like as a father, which Genkai references when they meet one another before Toguro goes to his final destination in the afterlife. But moving on to the next main villain on this list is someone else who also is a very strong contender for the title of the best main antagonist, which would have to be Shinobu Sensui, or the Dark Angel as he's referred to. And you know, when it comes to layered villains, and when it comes to a character who has their own motives, I think that Sensui is certainly one of the top tier, not only in this franchise, but perhaps among general anime villains. And the way that he's implemented from the very beginning, he isn't necessarily shown as being as powerful as Toguro in the Dark Tournament, but the way that he uses his skills, such as his special martial arts style to counter all of Yusuke's moves. And he's always keeping him on the offensive, but Sensui is always steps ahead of Yusuke and kind of distracting him with his various territory users while he's trying to enact the true plan of opening up the Kakai barrier between the demon world and the living.
I would say that where we mentioned before that Toguro felt like a very personal villain, where in terms of the relationship that he had not just with Yusuke but with Genkai. I mean, where Toguro was a personable villain, I would say Sensui was probably the villain in Yu Yu Hakusho that had the biggest agenda and the biggest plan. Because if you really think about it, like out of all the Yu Yu Hakusho villains, there was never one that had an agenda to the likes of Sensui. And I think because he was a former spirit detective, and I think because he was a human, just like Yusuke, I feel like that made him what he was as a villain. And obviously he brought out a very, very, very different side of Yusuke when Ryzen possessed his body and took him over. So for all of that stuff, I feel like really exploring the human versus demon world was brought about when Sensui was introduced to the series.
And I think that with Sensui, the concept of him is also really interesting when it comes to showcasing what could happen if someone like Yusuke were to fall. If they allowed the past traumas of the world, such as what was on the chapter Black Tape, tape to influence them and push them in the direction of nihilism and wanting everything to come to an end. And we even saw that when his mind fractured into 7, very akin to the 7 deadly sins. However, when it comes to the actual execution of how that was revealed and kind of like the final fight between him and Yusuke, I always felt that was a little bit lacking, and something that for me is kind of a negative when it comes to him being the truly most iconic and best villain in the series, but nonetheless I would still put him above most of the villains that came before him. And then moving on next to the final arc of the series, which would be the Three Kings arc, we encounter the Three Kings themselves, and among these three, I feel like Yomi would probably have to be the true main antagonist of this arc, because like you said, with Sensui and his master plan, it's also revealed that Yomi kind of has his own master plan, in which he wants to not only take over the demon world, but then he wants to go to spirit world and take that over as well, and basically become the god emperor in taking that top throne for himself.
If you really think about it, I mean, you could say that there really is no good guy in that arc, because Ryzen did, I guess you could say, a somewhat honorable thing by starving himself from eating humans, which I always felt was stupid in concept, but I could understand the impact that that human woman had on him. Obviously, Yusuke's great-great-great-great-great-grandmother, you know, for him to decide in doing that. In terms of Mokoro, she came from such a very dark background, and for anybody who has read the manga, like, the manga really goes more in depth about what actually happened to her as opposed to what the anime hints at, you know what I'm saying? And then in terms of Yomi, I feel like Yomi probably had the closest thing to like a very aggressive agenda to try and take over the demon world, whereas the other two demons, they kind of just felt like, okay, I'm associated with Yusuke and I'm associated with Hiei for my personal reasons, not because I really want to do this, you know what I'm saying? And that's the vibe I got from that arc. Yomi felt like the center focus, and Mokoro and Ryzen just seemed like, I want to be with Hiei and I want to be with Yusuke.
You know, I think when it comes down to it, a lot of what we could have seen from these characters, these antagonists, really could have been amplified that much more if Togashi had truly been able to put his all into this arc like he originally intended, such as having an all-out war between the various characters, as well as between the demon world, the spirit world, and the humans, and really take everything to the next level. But as we know, this ended up being the shortest arc, and a lot of that came down to his own health and everything at the time. So I feel like this arc and the characters in it, even though I really like the character development and a lot of the concepts, I feel like is really a case of wasted potential to a degree, and also that it's something that could have been even better, and maybe in that case Yomi or Mokoro or even Ryzen could have taken the spot. So with all that being said, and with us having gone through each of the main antagonists, in your opinion, who do you believe is truly the best main antagonist in the Yu Yu Hakusho franchise?
Very good question. In theory, Sensui. In execution, Toguro. In terms of concept, I would say that Sensui is the best villain, has the best motive, has probably some of the most unique abilities, and I feel like his agenda really made him the best villain, but I think in terms of how they executed relationships and how the villain was actually used, I would say Toguro.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with you. You know, when it comes down to Sensui, like I said, if certain things were tweaked and like the ending and climax of the arc was a little bit better, then for me, I feel like he definitely could have been the number one on this list. However, for me, Toguro is my favorite, and one of the reasons he's my favorite is because not only does he take this super badass, imposing shonen villain to the next level, but then he also has a really personal relationship with our main protagonist, and is a far more dynamic character than you would expect. So, for me, I would have to say that Toguro has to be the best main villain in Yu Yu Hakusho. Alright guys, so who do you think is the best main villain in Yu Yu Hakusho? Let us know down below. Of course, make sure to check out Quaman's channel in the end screen in the description. If you're new to this channel, then don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications so that you can see all of my videos right away when they come out. And make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.
talented, I'm reluctant to make the kill.
Oh my! He survived! He's on his feet! He's smoldering!
He survived it all. How could you? I believe you covered that. So my Dragon Eye may not be natural, but it does give me exactly what I need. Dragon of the Darkness Flame! I don't believe it's true. He's going to attempt the darkness technique.
The darkness? What does that mean?
Dragon of the what, sir?
Dragon of the Darkness Flame. It's incredibly dangerous. My father talked of it once, but I didn't think anyone could do it. In the deepest pits of the spirit world. Oh, help me. It's impossible to control it completely. Once I release it, I have no say. I have the power to pull you into oblivion. I assume just my right arm will do. You should never have insulted the Dragon Eye. Because you see, in a way it has its own mind and loathes disrespect. Resisting is not something I would do.
I realize I'm supposed to stay, but in light of this little situation we have here, retreat!
The darkness! Has succeeded.
Where's Zeru? There's his outline at least. Well, he's definitely out of the ring.
Believe me, he's not coming back. That cinder's all that's left.
Yes, then I suppose counting to 10 would be a little ridiculous. Let's give it up!
He's so talented, I'm reluctant to make the kill.
Oh my! He survived! He's on his feet! He's smoldering!
The hellebore should be here somewhere.
So my Dragon Eye may not be natural, but it does give me exactly what I need. It's true. He's going to attempt the darkness technique.
The darkness? What does that mean?
Dragon of the what, sir?
Dragon of the Darkness Flame. It's incredibly dangerous. My father talked of it once, but I didn't think anyone could do it. In the deepest pits of the spirit world. Oh, help me.
completely. Once I release it, I have no say. I have the power to pull you into oblivion. I assume just my right arm will do. You should never have insulted the Jagan Eye. Because you see, in a way it has its own mind and loathes disrespect. Resisting it is not something I would do.
Realize I'm supposed to stay, but in light of this little situation we have here, retreat!
A shipwreck. All snails must be close by.
Where's Zero? There's a second line at least.
Man, these eggs!
Well, he's definitely out of the ring.
Believe me, he's not coming back. That cinder's all that's left.
Yes, and I suppose counting to 10 would be a little ridiculous. Let's give it a...
I'm reluctant to make the kill.
Oh my! He survived! He's on his feet! He's smoldering!
They're grim, nihilistic, and dreadfully ominous. Even when they fight on the side of good, they'll never crack a smile or share in the reward. Oh, great. We're talking about edgelords, aren't we? Sasuke, rival to Naruto Uzumaki and the solitary survivor of the Uchiha clan. And Hiei, rival to Yusuke Urameshi and lonely orphan to demons. Hey, he's Wiz and I'm Boomstick. And it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to find out who would win a death battle. The Uchiha clan was renowned for their incredible ability in battle. Despite being one of the founding families of the Hidden Leaf village, Konoha, the Uchiha were outcast and cut off. For good reason. Their people had gotten pretty famous for attacking the village with the big nine-tailed
These
bugs.
must be the drugs the physician wanted. She said the medical
changed with the head of the
tools
clan's firstborn son, Itachi. He was a brilliant boy and a promising future for the family. even becoming the youngest kid to ever graduate ninja school. I was there for a bit, but then I learned they didn't use guns, so, you know. But Itachi opposed Wayne's latest monster coup. His response was, well, pretty good. I'll say, he went and murdered all of them. Every last one, except for his kid brother, Sasuke. Naturally, Sasuke was pretty pissed off that his big bro killed his whole family, so he swore to become the bestest shinobi ever and hunt Itachi down. Probably should have let him in on the plan there, Ichi.
Just like his brother, Sasuke soared through his schooling with flying colors, quickly learning the 3 primary kinds of jutsu, or ninja techniques.
Ninjutsu, which is basically magic spells, Genjutsu, which messes with the mind, and Taijutsu, the one where you just punch people.
While Sasuke impressed with inhuman speed, swordsmanship, and physical ferocity, he's mastered several powerful ninjutsu techniques.
Like belching his classic fire breath, making up to 8 shadow clones of himself, and the Chidori, a ball of freaking lightning that has some shocking effects.
Plus many more. And along the path to revenge, he spent much of his time perfecting and improving these techniques, even mastering lightning release to the point of casting Kirin, an electric strike in the shape of a dragon.
Divine Intervention 2.0. Fighting your foes is the way to go.
He can infuse his abilities with any of the 5 elements: fire, wind, earth, water,
heart.
No, lightning, obviously.
Oh.
As well as yin release, an element of creation itself.
So, basically, don't make fun of Sasuke to his face, because he'll kill the shit out of you before you even know what's happening. And we haven't even covered his best weapon yet.
Right. It turns out Itachi didn't only spare his brother because he loved him. He planned for Sasuke to witness this horror. He planned for Sasuke to swear revenge on him. Because this was the sort of trauma and hatred necessary to unlock an Uchiha's greatest weapon, the Sharingan.
The Sharingan eyes aren't some cool-looking lenses. They give Sasuke a bunch of new abilities. He can see chakra, the energy within people that powers jutsu. He can copy an opponent's techniques, memorizing them after one look.
This is the right area. The cave with the mushrooms
He can even trap
should be
you in a
close.
bonkers genjutsu hallucination that makes you go crazy or just pass out. Like me on Saturday.
And that's just the standard. Adding the trauma of loss to the mix of the Sharingan.
Like a Pokemon!
Mangekyo Sharingan. With the Mangekyo, Sasuke can call on far greater powers. He can cast Amaterasu, an irrepressible black fire hot enough to burn the sun. Even better, Sasuke can summon the Susanoo, an enormous avatar of chakra that fights for and protects him.
Which is strong enough to slice through meteors. Badass. Too bad Sharingan Part 2 has one big downside.
Yes, it eventually causes the user to go blind.
Unless you find someone else with the same manky eyes, lock those out of his head, then rip out your own eyes and replace them with the other guys. Gross.
And so, Sasuke found and killed his older brother, avenging his family and swapping Mangekyo eyes. Which was, again, Itachi's plan all along. So, good job?
Who came up with this shit? Damn, we're not done with eyeball shenanigans, though. He also got some Rinnegan circles, which gives him all sorts of weird context-sensitive powers. Like the I'm not gonna say that word. He teleports by bending space and time.
Most notably, the Rinnegan grants Sasuke the powers of the 6 paths. Like the Diva path for manipulating gravity, the human path for ripping out souls, and the Preta path for draining energy.
Like a ninja vampire!
Sasuke has used the Diva path in particular to extreme effect, once creating multiple planetoids which crashed in an explosion visible from outer space.
By checking out the Earth's curve here, it's pretty obvious the blast is worth more than 35 teratons of TNT. That's 7 billion times more powerful than the Tsar Bomb, the biggest nuke ever detonated.
And as mentioned before, Sasuke is known for his incredible speed, able to keep pace with the likes of fellow legends Naruto and Madara. In fact, Naruto once dodged an attack
Receiving incoming transmission.
at the speed of light.
And Sasuke can fight Naruto to a draw. You know, the guy who's an alien descendant with a demon fox in his belly and also took a beam to the face that sliced the moon in half? That's a 27 exaton blast right there.
With his quest complete, Sasuke finally discovered Itachi's true goal. But even after making peace and having a child of his own, he never could return to the happy life of society.
You just can't shake up all that edginess. Instead, Sasuke chose to defend the Hidden Leaf from a distance, just like his brother before him.
Don't mess with Sasuke of the Sharingan.
If anyone who criticizes my way of life were to come forward, I'd turn around and kill every single one of their loved ones, so that they too could grasp what it's like to experience this hatred of mine.
Standing less than 5 feet tall, this black-clad goth child may not seem so intimidating at first glance.
Yeah, I mean, paint a red stripe on him and he's just a human Shadow the Hedgehog.
But in reality, Hiei is a menacing warrior of demonic heritage. Born to a forbidden love.
In 2077, what makes someone a criminal? Getting caught.
Between an ice woman and a fire monster.
Reminds me of me and my ex. Well, too bad the rest of the ice ladies got pissed that she had banged a literally hot dude. So when her son was born, they chucked the little bastard right off their floating island. Damn, ladies, I know you're jealous, but you don't gotta take it out on the kid. That's my stepfather's job.
And yet, the child survived. Raised by thieves and remembering every last moment of the catastrophe of his birth, Hiei swore revenge.
And having bandits for foster parents means he got into stealing and murder at a wonderfully young age.
With his otherworldly physique,
Any word on my
Hiei
son?
quickly became an expert in athletic ability and swordsmanship. These skills would grow even further after he joined forces with his rival, the spirit detective Yusuke.
But he needed more than blades and brawn to get back at the ice bitches.
Your son is
so
dead.
he went to Shigure, the Doctor of Darkness, who would implant a magical third eye into his forehead. Because we still ain't done with these eyeball shenanigans, I guess.
This was the Jagan, literally translating to evil eye. With the Jagan, Hiei wields numerous mystical powers. He can spy on people and objects from 10 kilometers away. He can read minds and protect his own from powerful mental attacks. He can move objects and energy with telekinesis.
Yeah, and that's just the start of his powers. But with the Jagan stuck in his face, Hiei finally made the trip to Ice Town. But, wasn't quite what he expected.
Right. Instead of slaughtering the demon women as he planned, he spared them because he realized that they lived meaningless, cold lives.
You get it, 'cause they're nice people.
Is this pity from a demon?
I mean, you might not want to invite this guy to your next backyard party, but he's
Silent
not that
snake.
bad of a guy.
We will
Case in
bring
point,
this evil
he found
creature.
out he's got a twin sister and
think
set
I
out on a new
sacrificed my
mission
Lydia
to
to a
find and
creature in
protect
the
her.
forest.
And with the
walking
Jagan
curse.
eye and his
Is it-
further
She just looked
abilities,
scared,
he'd make
please.
one powerful
The
bodyguard.
creature took Lydia.
Yeah, by incinerating all your enemies, he can light his punches ablaze with
What are
his
you
fist
saying?
of the mortal flame, giving his foes a sick burn. But what's better than normal fire?
This riding dread.
Careful.
Demon fire, of
The girl
course.
is coming with
Dragon,
me.
She's whispered
shape,
spells in your ear,
demon
Mistio.
fire.
Citizens, we must save our city. I mean, enter.
Hide in the temple.
This is the Dragon of the Darkness Flame, an overwhelming entity of fire and rain that can obliterate foes in an instant.
It just killed all those people. They feel a little bad, but they're demons, so yeah.
The dragon burns hotter than fire and is difficult to control. It can even turn on its wielder. Yet Hiei has recklessly forced himself to master the technique with some trial and error. Don't worry, he got better.
His demon elemental resistance has certainly helped. He can power through most elemental attacks no problem, and is basically immune to fire and ice. And when he wants to get up close and personal, he can mold the darkness flame into a kick-ass sword.
He can even summon multiple dragons after assuming his ultimate form, the Gigantia.
Oh yeah, if that one extra eye was creepy, now I've got a bunch of eyes all over, which to me just seems like a lot of weak points.
Well, it's not. The Giganchi form greatly increases all of Hiei's abilities, not just darkness flame. And to add even more layers to this, Hiei can also absorb the Dragon of the Darkness Flame himself, further increasing his strength and speed.
All of which lets him keep kicking ass and taking names around the demon world. It's funny Yusuke was quick enough to dodge lightning, but was not fast enough to see all of Hiei's sword swings when he slashed up this ice guy.
How many times did you go? 16. And here I could only keep track of 7 or 8.
Therefore, Hiei was clearly attacking at speeds far faster than lightning. around 300 times the speed of sound, and that was still very early in his journey when he was considered a C-class demon. As he ranked up, he gained even more incredible speed.
His darkness sword can even cut and burn through Kuro Momotaro, who evolved to be totally immune to, cutting and burning. So figure that one out.
By the end of his adventures, Hiei was ranked S-class level, making him many times faster than before and equal in power to his rival Yusuke.
And that means he's super powerful.
Right. Sensui, an S-class human, claimed he had to limit his power, as a mere 50% of it could create a worldwide earthquake. Yusuke's mentor, Genkai, even believed Yusuke could obliterate the entire planet.
But conveniently, the demon world is a lot bigger and tougher than Earth, so this crazy power level is tricky to prove. Either way, he is basically on a league of his own.
As shown by Sensui, a typical S-class demon can defeat 3 A-class ones with minimal effort.
But Hiei took on 500 all by himself.
I unleashed 500 A-class demons.
And you should know by now, when I say 500 A-class demons, I mean a Belgian.
Damn, dude, shouldn't they call you, like, Ultimate S-plus class or something by now?
Well, he's certainly comparable to Yusuke. When Yusuke fought the Demon King Yomi in the Demon World Tournament, the two of them hit each other so hard that this happened.
Holy shit, that's insane!
While this technically occurred on a tree in the hardier Demon World, yes, that's a tree, we can calculate the curvature of the planet as seen here. The treetop appears to be well above cloud level, and we can use the circumference and the distance to this girl to determine the explosion's overall size. With all this in mind, we concluded the blast must have been at least 4.5 million meters high, nearly 15 million feet.
From just a punch! Well, I guess 2 punches technically, but Yusuke wasn't even in top form at the time, and he survived being in the middle of all that. Since Hiei can fight evenly with Yusuke and even move faster than him, I'd say they're definitely in the same ballpark of power level.
And just for kicks, Hiei can separate his spirit from his mortal body while still maintaining all of his abilities.
So, see a demon?
I found
Or
scraps
a
of his clothes. Lead.
Both, I guess.
Time
He
to
can
find
do this
Yusuke.
anytime he wants, unlike normal people who need to be killed, or sometimes just knocked down.
You mean like this? Ah, ghost!
Anyway, Hiei kept his word and soon found his sister in need of aid. Despite his terrible upbringing, he's actually found a supportive family among friends.
Except he never did tell her he was her brother, because he's just too emo for that.
Still, few can match the dangerous power Hiei commands.
Once your own doom has been unraveled, I assure you there's no turning back.
What is this place?
All right, the combatants are set, and we run the data through all possibilities.
But first, let me tell you how to protect yourself from the ghost in the machine with ExpressVPN.
These days, having a VPN is essential, and trust me, ExpressVPN is the best you can find.
What's a VPN? It's like having a virtual bodyguard for your internet.
VPN stands for Virtual Private Network and protects your privacy and data while you're browsing. It blocks outside snooping, interference, and censorship. And unlike most other VPNs, ExpressVPN is perfect for gaming. With shorter connection routes between you and gaming servers, ExpressVPN reduces ping and overall lag.
And by masking my location, I've downloaded games from other countries with earlier launch dates, so I get to play all those sweet JRPGs early and make all my friends jealous.
You like JRPGs?
Who doesn't? ExpressVPN gives you faster speeds than other VPN providers, server options across 94 countries, apps for every device you can imagine, and it's easy to use. Connect with just one click.
Take back your internet privacy today and find out how you can get 3 months free by clicking the link in the description box or by going to expressvpn.com/battle. That's expressvpn.com/battle.
But right now, it's time for a death battle!
Ligia! That's her! Cassandra, she's alive! We need to get inside. But I see no openings. And the walls are too smooth to climb.
That's not your business.
She shouldn't be in there. She should be in my arms. Her breath, her smell. Every night we'd meet at the Dread Ruins. I was late, just once. I wanted to find her a rose. Something as perfect as she is. This is my fault. If I'd gotten there in time.
When you donate a coat at Burlington, it goes to someone in need in your community.
It's a nice book.
Then you'd both be together.
Donate a coat at Burlington.
You were searching for a rose. Thank
I
you.
really appreciate this. I love this coat.
Thanks. You do this, someone gets this.
What do you know about
Thank
this
you.
place?
You get
Nikki has a
10%
daughter
off
about
your
this.
entire purchase.
People
and
trained
someone
here
gets
long
a
ago.
coat. Join
I'll find it.
Burlington's commitment
There's
to
also a
giving back.
mercenary,
You'll
a man
feel
who claims he
warm
killed the
inside.
creature.
Thank you very much.
Impossible. But
so
many
will they.
believe
From
him.
the bottom of my heart.
He might.
She looks beautiful.
I'll find a way inside, and then I'll
Santa?
kill this creature.
And I'll find you here the rose. Someone, I tell you, in
The poet Sappho.
Wow.
our favorite. Please, Cassandra.
Origin of the ancient pearl.
No match.
How interesting.
What? How?
Pathetic fool. I'm the power, fire, dash, incarnate. Dragon of the darkness flame! Damn you! Dragon!
There's the temple on the hill.
Our line.
Excuse me?
We're born into darkness and rise up to the greatest.
A warrior and a sophist. This is a first.
It is not philosophy, it's truth. Learned through violence, fate, and seeing evil.
You're talking about the writhing dread.
The creature. When it ambushed us outside, we thought, oh,
Give me that spear.
we are warriors. To let it go without a fight would...
Wait, really? I thought this was an easy win for Sasuke. What happened?
Well, hold on. I promise there's a good explanation. This was an extremely close match. Sasuke was certainly faster than PA, given his light speed reactions through Skeleton Arch. And technically he went through superior training, so there's certainly a few versions of this fight where he could use those advantages to take the win.
But we're always looking for who has the best chances to win most often, not just in very specific situations.
Exactly. At first glance, it's easy to assume Sasuke's enormous and varied arsenal could have simply overwhelmed Hiei. But to our surprise, Hiei had perfect counters for almost everything Sasuke could throw at him. Being a fire and ice demon hybrid with elemental resistances, he's powered through electrical attacks like the Chidori before. And his fire immunity and oneness with the darkness flame turned the devastating Amaterasu into a mere annoyance.
Sasuke's Rinnegan gave him gravity control, and that Sharingan Genjutsu was pretty brutal. But Hiei's Jagan gave him telekinesis and mental protections, putting the brakes on Sasuke's high shenanigans. Even if Sasuke tried using human path on him to rip out his soul, it wouldn't have mattered, because Hiei could keep fighting as a ghost.
And frankly, it's unlikely Sasuke was that much faster. While Hiei could outpace Lightning at C-Class, the difference between Spirit classes is far greater than a simple 100 or 200% increase. After all, a lower S-Class could beat 3 A-Class fighters without much effort, and Hiei is an upper S-Class. But most surprisingly, Hiei's level of power surpassed Sasuke's.
No friggin' way.
Let's look at the Susanoo's meteor feat. By measuring the meteor's size compared to the Susanoo and applying sheer force, we determined this feat equaled about 364 teratons of TNT at most.
In scientific terms, that's a hell of a lot. And obviously scaling to Naruto means he can take a hit worth 27 exatons. How could Hiei top that?
Well, recall how there were multiple claims that S-class demons could obliterate the Earth. Since most fights took place in the demon world, which is much harder than the human one, these claims were difficult to prove and seemed a little dubious.
Until Yusuke fought Yomi and they made that gigantic explosion.
As we determined earlier, that blast was at least 4.5 million meters tall. At minimum, the kinetic energy of an explosion like this would equal about 285 zetatons of TNT.
That's 21 zeros. Way more than Sasuke's meteor feat. Even if we half it, because there's two people doing the punching, that's still over 5,000 times greater than the Naruto moon slice.
It's probably even more impressive than that. If the tree is actually closer to the clouds, and therefore closer to the planet, that technically changes the shot's perspective, which would mean the tree is actually even wider, the explosion even larger, and thus the kinetic energy even greater.
So when Genkai said an S-class demon like Yusuke or Hiei could wipe out a planet, she wasn't kidding around.
Correct. While Sasuke is equal to beings powerful enough to slice and shift moons, he still could not match Hiei's strength. Even if Hiei was only half as strong as Yusuke, this would still put him well above Sasuke in terms of sheer power output and durability.
So while Sasuke was still faster, he had a real tough time trying to land a fatal blow.
There were a lot of factors in this fight, and Sasuke certainly clinched several advantages of his own. But in the end, Hiei's impeccable abilities, perfect counters, and clearly superior power took the victory.
Sasuke lost the edge and was a sure goner.
The winner is Hiei.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode. If you want the battle music for yourself, you can get it by clicking the link down below. And if you just can't get enough Death Battle, make sure to click the link over there to keep watching.
No man can challenge.
You're back. Do you have the ingredients?
I do.
Very good. Now I'll be able to make a new store of elixir. But first, I need to make sure it's safe for human consumption.
So I have officially been silenced by Death Battle and Rooster Teeth. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, on my days off, I like to stream. I usually stream at 10 o'clock at night.
If it does what you...
On Discord, and with you guys, the Black Squad here, who are here to support me. And I tried to stream last night my reaction to 2 minutes of Sasuke versus Hiei's Death Battle. It was 2 minutes. And that's the part that they took out. 2 minutes of me reacting to it. Just the fight portion of it. And I was giving commentary along with Rose. We were talking about it, what was going on in the battle itself. And as you guys can see here, I'm not going to show any footage from the video. I'm not even putting any still shots because I don't want any shit. Because this was probably the most extreme case of copyright claim that I've ever gotten. Because normally when you get a copyright claim, you can fight it, but it means either your video is blocked or it means that another company is trying to siphon the funds from your video to theirs, but you can still fight. Normally you can fight that sort of thing. I've never gotten one for a stream. I don't know how it works for streaming, but in this case it worked extremely negatively toward my end for streaming because not only did the video get blocked worldwide by Rooster Teeth, it also took away my streaming capabilities on this channel for 90 days. That's right, my first offense when it came to something like this for streaming, my streaming is gone for 90 days. That is probably till next year, January at some point, or very end of December. I'm not exactly sure when. And I would like to fight it, but at this point in time, I don't want to fight it. And
Welcome to the next generation of open-world adventure. Immerse yourself in Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Dig deeper because I don't know how Rooster Teeth is going to.
Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile. It's the holidays, and that means it's wireless promo season. Right now, the big wireless companies are spending billions trying to lure you into long, expensive relationships with a shiny new phone. Enticing, right? At Mint Mobile, we don't hate you. So, we're offering you 3 months of free service on any of our plans, even unlimited. And you can bring your own phone.
Get ready for something new. Rent or buy the latest hit movies on YouTube, or stream select titles for free with ads. Watch it all on the YouTube app. It's your new home for movies. Find your next movie on YouTube.
So here we go again. Another lawmaker who is a shill for the entertainment industry is trying to put you in jail. Literally, it'll be a felony if you stream copyrighted material. He's trying to put this into the federal funding bill that if it doesn't get passed in time, could shut the federal government down. That's why he's doing it. He's trying to slip it by, hoping that no one sees. But we did see, that's why I'm making the video. Let's get into it. I'm pissed off. Skip it a button. Today's video is sponsored by Fubo TV. If you're one of the 80 million Americans who are fed up with high cable prices and dealing with shady cable companies, there's finally an alternative that gives you the cable TV experience at half the price. It's called Fubo TV. Fubo TV comes with over 100 of your favorite channels, including complete coverage of all your favorite sports with all local broadcasters. All major sports league networks, NFL Red Zone, ESPN, ABC, CBS, and more. And you can stream select games in 4K. Plus, you can record your favorite games and shows on Fubo TV's DVR and watch anywhere on any device. I've actually been watching the classic 1992 movie, A League of Their Own, starring Tom Hanks and Gina Davis. It's a great movie, and I highly recommend it. Other streaming services can't compete with the breadth of entertainment that
must be Vrisa Ford.
And coming in at half the cost of cable, Fubo TV is the best option for cord cutters everywhere. Fubo TV is easy to control. It takes 2 minutes to sign up and start streaming. The commander's left the helm! No cable box required. You can try it for free and cancel anytime. No hassle, no gotchas. Sign up for a risk-free trial of Fubo TV and get 15% off your first month by going to FuboTV.com/RTU. Again, that's FuboTV.com/RTU. So let's go back to what feels like a different lifetime, 2011. SOPA and PIPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, and the Protect Intellectual Property Act. I remember our buddy who was U.S. Representative Lamar Smith introduced the bill way back in the day, and his thing was, oh, it protects intellectual property. We're just looking to defend people who create things, and it was all BS. Basically, what would happen is, if the Stop Online Piracy Act was in law, every website like YouTube and Twitch would have to babysit every single piece of footage and stream that is uploaded to their website, and it wouldn't have been guaranteed to happen, like the law would have been fully enforced, of course not. It's just how it is, but the potential for what the Stop Online Piracy Act could have done, or the Protect IP Act could have done, and what it has done, was absolutely disastrous. And that was frightening, man, because that's when it just stopped partnering on YouTube. And to see this happen where it could have ruined anything that had to do with YouTube was pretty scary. We also had treaties like ACTA that fell through, thank God. That would have been even worse, because treaties that multiple nations sign into are tougher to get out of once they're
I should take it back to the vignette.
I don't know all the logistics of it. I'm not a political commentator, but that would have been equally terrible too, if not worse. Well, Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who barely won his re-election bid, there's a spending bill. If you're not from the states, there's a yearly spending bill that has to go on to fund the federal government. And if it's not funded, there could be a shutdown. It's happened before. It could happen again. And when you have pieces of garbage like Tom Tillis in office, what they'll do is, hey, what do my corporate backers want me to do? Who lobbied for me to be, who I barely won my re-election by 2%, I believe. It was 2%, which is barely anything. What can I do to kiss their asses so they keep on giving me campaign money so I could stay in power? I know. I'll put draconian measures into place and try to squeeze them into the funding bill so no one pays attention and they have to be rushed through. So if a streamer uses copyrighted music that would just be like a DMCA takedown, depending on the severity of it, they could go to prison, which right now, without what he was putting in the legislation, misdemeanor at most. He wants it to go behind bars. Imagine going behind, hey, I was a Twitch streamer and I streamed something I shouldn't have, so now I'm in prison. That's what he wants. This comes from Kotaku.com. I'll read it to you, then we'll discuss. According to the Politico offshoot protocol, the felony streaming proposal is the work of Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who had...
Save with the Google Fi phone subscription program. You'll get Pixel 4a with device protection and a phone upgrade after 2 years. All purchase $15 a month. That's $133 back in your pocket over 2 years. Subscribe and save with Google Fi today.
So, it's your friend's birthday. How do you find the perfect gift? Download the Amazon app and let it find you. Just seen your mom reading that book your friend's been talking about? Scan the barcode, buy it with one click, and you'll get regular delivery updates. The Amazon app. What are you looking for?
Who has backed similar proposals previously. They're talking about things like the CASE Act. It is more or less exactly what it sounds like. A proposal to turn unauthorized commercial streaming of copyrighted material, progressive policy publication in the American Prospect, specifically points to examples like an album on YouTube, a video clip on Twitch, or an Instagram story, into a felony offense with a possible prison sentence. Currently, such violations, no matter how severe, are considered misdemeanors rather than felonies, because the law regards streaming as a public performance. With Twitch currently in the crosshairs of the music industry, such a change would turn up the heat on streamers and Twitch even higher, perhaps to an unattainable degree. Other platforms like YouTube would almost certainly suffer as well. And now some of you may be thinking, oh, Rich, you're over-exaggerating, you're being melodramatic. Even if this does pass in the spending bill, it's not a big deal. Relax. This guy, he's probably not in the pockets of the entertainment industry as much as you think. Oh, yeah? You want to know where he got lobbying money from? I'm going to read all of them just to make a point. Ready? Let's have fun. Tom Tillis, entertainment industry PAC donor. This is in the article prospect.org. You can look at it below in the description. So let's begin. Comcast Corporation and NBC Universal Political Action Committee, 20 grand. Charter Communications, 16,500 was donated to his campaign. NCTA, the Internet and Television Association Political Action Committee, $15,000. AT&T Federal Political Action Committee, $14,000. Motion Picture Association of America, my pals over there who I ripped a new one back in 2011, 2012 on a daily basis, $7,500. These politicians are cheap to buy. National Association of Broadcasters Political Action Committee, $7,500. Sony Pictures Entertainment, Inc., $6,000. Fox Corporation, $5,000. Nexstar Broadcasting Group, $5,000. Salem Media Group Political Action Committee, $5,000. National Music Publishers Association Incorporated Political Action Committee, $45,000. I love $4,500. I love how they make it like their names are. They're trying to seek liberty and justice when they're just trying to bribe politicians. The Recording Industry Association of America, oh, my pals too, $3,500. Universal Music Group Employee Action Fund, $3,500. Viacom International, are you seeing a pattern here? Incorporated Political Action Committee, $3,500. Cox Enterprises PAC, Cox PAC Incorporated, $2,500. The ASCAP Legislative Fund for the Arts, $2,500. The Walt Disney Production Employees PAC, $2,500. Warner Music Incorporated Political Action Committee, $2,000. iHeartMedia Inc. Clear Channel Outdoor Leadership PAC, $1,000. Music Speaks, the Sound Exchange Incorporated Legislative Fund, $1,000. National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences Political Action Committee, aka the Grammy Fund, $1,000. You see a pattern of all the people that donate to his campaign. They want him to do their bidding for them. And their bidding is if they try to chill user-generated content, especially it seems like live streaming, they're really going after.
Question.
Your friend looks hurt. He's very.
I was told I would find the doctor here.
The doctor is gone.
Media, which would make them more profits since legacy media is
Words
slowly
are
dying.
tough.
Go try to buy a
Some men
CD
took the doctor away
from a store. Good luck. I'll see you later. I'll hold my breath until you come back with a CD of an artist.
Step away from
this.
Oh, wait.
We'll
see
you probably have a better chance of buying a piece of goddamn vinyl. Literally, I'm not kidding. I hate being political. This time I have to. I don't care which way you lean. I think you'll agree with me on that. Like Rich, because I get kind of political in my streams. Can't help it. Just topics come up. Rich, I may not agree with you. I'm more conservative, but I do agree that money shouldn't be in politics. I don't know. Here is the proof right here. I read to you countless corporations that lobbied Tom Tillis, that supported his campaign. They want him back in office to do their bidding. And they're like, oh man, we have to rush through a federal spending bill. Let's put this in so no one's paying attention. This is what they do. This is how corrupt our politicians are. If you don't think money needs to get out of government, you're wrong. You're factually wrong. This is what happens when corporations are allowed to financially support what are supposed to be public servants to the people that voted them into office. Instead, they're servants to their paymasters, and they do the bidding for corporations that in the end ends up hurting us. It's common sense and human nature. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one.
You blew it.
Hey, if you enjoy my content, consider becoming a Review Tech USA member. I'll have a link below in the description. I live stream now on this channel all the time, and it gives you access to cool emoticons to use as well while I live stream. Again.
Check out your holiday gift list right now at Kohl's. Get up to 25%.
Receiving incoming transmission.
Save $10 on Kohl's boots and slippers. Get Levi's denim, $49.99. Plus, get gold tab. Plus, restore pickup. Give with all your heart.
This next clip is what is hilarious. We are seeing the equivalent of competing temper tantrum happening right now. Right-wing media that's loyal to Trump is having a temper tantrum as they realize Trump's going to leave office. Trump lost. Joe Biden won. None of these ridiculous attempts to steal the election are going to work. So that's one temper tantrum. On the other side, meanwhile, you have some Trump advisors increasingly having a temper tantrum that more and more media are acknowledging that Trump won. You understand the competing temper tantrums here. And the day before yesterday, this came together, and it was just glorious. I mean, this is a pleasure to watch, and it was made even better by a slight connection delay between the two people involved. And this was a conversation between Fox Business host Lou Dobbs and who, by the way, is a huge Trumpist himself.
and then radical, unhinged, extremist Trump advisor Stephen Miller. So check out this clip, and what it seems like is happening here is Lou Dobbs is mad at Republicans for not standing behind Trump and not fighting more. Fighting to steal an election that Trump lost, by the way. And Stephen Miller is mad, apparently, at states and governors when they seem to then start getting mad at each other. The connection delay makes it even funnier. Lou Dobbs seems mad at Stephen Miller. And it's just a complete fiasco, and this is truly people who have no idea what to do. They're falling apart like a kid who missed their nap. Take a look at this.
Republicans do nothing, Steve. Nothing.
It's an outrage. Wrong.
What's wrong with the Republican Party?
Where is the outrage? Tens of millions. Tens of millions of ballots. No signature checks.
What the hell are the Republicans?
You're right. Tens of millions of ballots nationwide. No signature checks. No citizenship checks. No residency checks. No age checks. No criminal record checks. Not even checking if you're alive or dead.
Now, of course, what Stephen Miller is saying is absurd. No, we're not checking if people are alive. You can't vote if you're dead. Physically, you can't do it. No citizenship. You can't even register to vote if you're not a citizen. These are the same old, tired talking points that they keep using. And this conversation has escalated as Lou Dobbs claims Republicans abandoned Donald Trump.
Are we a third world country? Are we a banana republic? What does it come to? If they count only legal ballots from U.S. citizens, this president gets 4 more years.
Let me, from your lips to God's ears, the reality is that this president right now is fighting, and let's be straightforward about it. He's fighting all alone. And Ted Cruz has stepped up to say he'll argue for the Supreme Court. Why in God's green earth wouldn't the White House jump on it? Why shouldn't they accept that right now?
And I'll just say this one other thing, though. If 3 state legislatures, I just outlined, one correction in
No, Steve, I won't let you say. I'm not going to let you do this. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you do that. I ask a question. You and I, we're reasonably smart and decent fellows.
They are reasonably smart and decent. They just want an election that Joe Biden won to be overturned without evidence and given to the man they worship. These are, guys, these are reasonably smart and decent people who just want the democratic process thrown in the toilet and Trump awarded a victory. They just disagree about how to do it. Lou Dobbs...
Receiving incoming transmission.
While I guess Stephen Miller is mad at Republican governors. But now Lou Dobbs demands an answer from Stephen Miller. Why don't you hire Ted Cruz as a lawyer to fight this battle?
Why don't you answer me? That's all I'm asking here, Stephen. Why don't you guys jump and salute Ted Cruz and say, yes, we want you on the team now? My God, this is not a time for internecine nonsense on the part of the Republican Party, which is watching its blood drain into the streets because they're gullible.
Consider how absurd Lou Dobbs' idea is to hire Ted Cruz as a lawyer to steal the election, hire a sitting senator to also be a lawyer for the president. It's just a farcical idea. And it's actually funny because Lou, I don't know if you saw, but Lou Dobbs did something there that's rarely done on right-wing media.
Tell me about this medicine.
The medicine.
Lou Dobbs interrupted Stephen Miller and said, you're not answering the question.
Yes, you know
So this proves what we suspected.
You still feed them the tongue.
I had no choice. I was forced to do it, but I will right my wrongs.
But they're choosing not to, unless they don't like the answer.
I need
Lou
the
Dobbs,
medicine.
in this case,
What?
didn't like the answer.
Whatever
so
for.
We're seeing everything in the last few weeks. We're seeing some rats abandoning the ship
I need the medicine
and
for
sort of
someone I
eating
know.
each other on the way out.
He's
We're
afflicted.
seeing
What?
some rats go down with the
You
ship.
wouldn't
Kayleigh
forsake a
McEnany
pet.
would be an
I
example of
cannot
that.
abandon my pets. I'm
You're seeing
first.
people who are
Get
going
rid
the
of
direction
those
of
malakis.
sort of like pretending
I'll get
none
rid
of
of
this ever
them.
happened.
Right?
And
Yes,
it
it will
really
take
is
time
like
for
the
me to
best
gather the
comedy
ingredients.
team on television.
The medicine could be
Rudy gets
helpful to me,
COVID,
Leas.
Put Ted Cruz
First,
on the case.
I should deal
It's
with the doctor's
laughable
captors.
and hilarious, and it will be over soon. I'm not here to tell you help is on the way. That's not my catchphrase. It will be over soon is the catchphrase that I'm going with here. One of our sponsors is Privacy.com. They're giving you $5 when you sign up for their
completely free service at privacy.com/Ackman. I've been using Privacy for a little over a year now. You've heard me talk about it before. It's a lifesaver, and here's how it works. It takes just a couple of minutes to set up. Anytime you buy something, online or on the phone, instead of actually using your real credit card number, the Privacy app and the browser plugin let you give each
There he is. Should be extra careful in this area.
君がスバル一ノ瀬君ね。君のデュランダルのことなんだけど、父から何も聞いてないかしら。父。
Some pretty interesting that he actually bribes people and gives people hush money so they won't say anything negative about him. Now, you guys remember a while back a big article over on Insider that was discussing a lot of the very serious allegations against Jeffree Star. And one of the things they talked about is offering hush money to people to basically not say anything negative about him, including trying to, pay off journalists so they wouldn't report anything negative about him. And we've always heard this, that, supposedly he's hush money to people, but there hasn't really been any proof of it until now. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. We have this person of Sticky Drama saying this. Now we got receipts from Jeffree Star $45,000 in hush money for rape offense. And we can see what looks like an image here of the check that was used for the payoff money at a value of $45,000. And we see some terms here that says Mr. Arthur shall be paid $25,000. If this insider does not
Anthony Vanity and Danny are fraud. I don't know who these people are. Have also retracted their statements to Business Insider. Mr. Arthur shall receive an additional $10,000 for contacting Mr. Vanity and Mr. Fraud for a total of additional $20,000. So it looks like there was some kind of settlement agreement made. So basically said, hey, we'll pay you this money, we'll get lots of money, just to basically make sure nobody talks about this pretty crazy situation. Now, I want to take a look at the article on Sticky Drama so we can get more details on this situation. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the article. Merry Christmas, y'all. Sticky Drama tips to our readers. Is this a real receipt on the sleaziest, if not the biggest scandal of the year? We'll charge hush money figures to various accusers. And again, we see a little bit of a on September 28th, Scott Andrews, who, according to several corporate filings that are public records, is CFO of Jeffree Star Cosmetics, purchased a Bank of America cash check in the amount of $45,000 payable to Arthur, whose full legal name is Andrew Gage Arthur, and has a small online following known simply as the Gage Arthur. Jeffree's lawyers did not respond to our request for comments sent well over 24 hours prior to the publication on this post. Likewise, none of the parties named in the documents responded either or had anything to say beyond a polite hello. The Sticky Drama called Bank of America's merchant check verification services and confirmed that the account number on the check, which we have chosen to blur out here, was a real Bank of America bank account. So they basically confirmed the check. In addition, Sticky Drama has said they sealed the agreement breaking down how Gage received the $45,000. We read that earlier in the week. Our readers will recall that Sticky Drama wrote a story about Jeffree Star's alleged rapist, taser, torture of Gage Arthur, who was technically a legal adult but also a penniless teen in Mississippi who wasn't able to choose a place to crash anywhere without submitting himself to God knows what else with Jeffree. In our initial reporting, we picked up by Insider, but suddenly Gage and other parties not so mysteriously retracted their statements from Sticky Drama and Insider. Our hush money figure has been tossed around in various media, but now we know that Gage, the primary victim of both stories, received substantially more, $45,000. Check back here for more social media news stories. So, this is allegedly the hush money that we've all heard about exists. Like, apparently, Jeffree Star really does try to pay people off in order to silence them. Now, I also want to highlight this from Team Star, this Twitter thread, where he kind of comments on the situation. He says, I have reached out to Jeffree Star for comments about allegedly leaked $45,000 check-in contract to Andrew Arthur from Jeffree Star to stop the story from airing on Business Insider. You know, as soon as I get the comment, #drama,
They won't bother the doctor again. That's taken care of. Now, the doctor mentioned strange things happening in the city. I should look around.
We see Kate Andrew. It's rare to see the reaction to a story before it comes out, but yes, needless to say, I do have a big story development coming out tomorrow. And so has indeed done a drama about this situation, which you can definitely check out if you want to. But this is big news. Like I said, we've repeated multiple times that Jeffree Star has a habit of basically paying people hush money to try and silence them, whether it's alleged victims of his actions, trying to pay off journalists, trying to pay off major publications to prevent stories from being run. This is something we've heard time and time again, and finally, it looks like we might have some evidence, if this is real, that proves that he does just that. But at the end of the day, those are just my opinions. What do you guys think of this whole situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I always like to hear what you guys have to say. But anyway, guys, this is Tipster here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.